Yeah, so I am Chetan Pandey. I'm these days based in Noida, and I'm an archivist by hobby, and I run an NGO called eGangotri. And our dream is that every book of Sanskrit, especially Tantra Shaivism, Kashmir Shaivism, and mystical branches of Sanskrit uh, like Nevari Buddhism and Kabir Panth and Gorakhnath tradition. All these books of mystical wisdom, they're all brought online, the books and manuscripts. So, and since I'm like my background is technology and Sanskrit, so it is very important for me to be at every World Sanskrit Conference, and I'm glad I came here. Like it's a very vibrant city, and like they have everybody they have preserved the heritage so well, and yeah, because so when I was 19, I went with my parents to America, and I studied computer science, but my heart was Sanskrit. And then I remember I had my cousin was telling that Chetan took one suitcase only full of books, and he was mesmerized that everybody brings papad and masala and you name it, but he took one. And I mean, I took those books, and where are those books? Uh, so we are in such good times and ages, and like carrying your own books, and then they just get lost, or you give away to people you don't want to. They probably get recycled. So now we live in such good times, uh, and then flash forward a few years when I was in Singapore, like I had this humongous thirst for, being abreast with whatever was happening in the world of Kashmir Shaivism or the books that have been already created. And then again, I had that bringing books, and if I go back, I bring the same books back. And then technology at that time was just coming around, related to mass scanning, and that's when I was like, maybe I should invest like a small team for that. And I started with one. First, what I did, I had my own collection. I got my uncle to volunteer, and then we were looking for libraries, and we found Professor Navjeevan Stogi, who's also my Guruji, who was willing to let his entire collection be digitized. And let it be known, he is one of the top scholars of Kashmiri Shaivism, and he had uh, a very good collection. It was curated by somebody who understands that discipline as nobody else in the entire country. And in passing, I just want to mention like one of the most important tantras in Kashmir Shaivism, actually the most important is Malini Vijayottar Tantra. And Guruji had a translation done in Jammu in 1950-ish circa. And Guruji told me that it took him 4 years to retrieve it when he heard a rumor like that. And then I'm like, okay, Guruji, what are we waiting for? Give it to me. And now that manuscript, which was the first attempt in English, is available online. Has been there for a long time. And for example, Guruji's PhD is there now, and Guruji's Krama and Tantricism Part 2, which he never was able to publish, the typed manuscript is online. So the power of digitization to like influence 7 billion people at the same time, that power is what I want to make sure that knowledge is democratized. It's in everybody's hand. Nobody has to pay a red cent for that. And that like there is Homo sapiens and there's Homo Deus, a term coined by the Israeli social scientist Yuval Harari. So that Homo Deus, when Homo sapiens are no longer worried by diseases and a lack of clothes, we have already taken care of that. So now we are at that higher rung of the what is called the hierarchy of needs, and postulated by Maslow, maybe? Yeah, Maslow hierarchy of needs. So we are, as time passes, we are going on the higher rungs. So these books, if they are there and if they are online, that alone will make sure that these ideas will propagate and in proportion of their relevance to humanity be adopted. In fact, when I started, like, we had internet, but now we have Google AI. So I mean, so so now I can see that any digitization, like, you take it to like even higher level where human intelligence is not the commodity that is stopping you. So now if you have 100 books, you scan them, you don't even OCR them, you just feed them to a Google LM engine, and then every permutation and combination you can imagine, you can get very reasonable answers. And it's just a matter of time. This will happen to like the most complicated cursive handwriting. So, and we are not ready, actually. If you see the, like, it is believed widely that the largest number of handwritten manuscripts are in India, and nobody's even scratched the surface when it comes to digital availability. So that means Google LM can only serve the community as much as you have given it for open access, public domain extraction of wisdom and information and ideas. So I hope that more is done in this direction. And I've just scratched the surface because there's like so much. Actually, so my first love was Sanskrit. Then when I went to America, my fancy to do linguistics, so I could be, like, in that domain of Sanskrit. My dad did not approve, and I took technology. And actually, so in my life, like, that's like it's like the middle way. So here's the Buddha in me saying Sanskrit, and the Buddha initially who, and then there's my dad who's like, be practical. And in fact, as an archivist, my role is far more based on my technology skills than anything else. So, because e-archiving is all about being a programmer and very secondarily about being an expert in Sanskrit. So that was like the perfect blend. And now that I look back, like, for example, if my dad had pushed me for law or medicine, and if I had stayed in America, like, I probably will be, but I wouldn't have the tools to do what I want to do. So, I think that's a great synergy of pursuing two disciplines. So yes, yeah. So I think it's been more than 14 years, and we started with the flatbed scanners. There was this one Taiwanese company, and I don't remember the name, and it did a great job. But because of that physical touch, it was not very suitable for all sorts of material. And then so I started with my own collection, and I used to get a very tiny salary in Singapore, and I was able to sponsor one person. And then after a few years, there was this Fujitsu. Fujitsu came up with a overhead portable scanner, which only costed 55,000 rupees. And since it was not touch, so I was able to expand myself into manuscripts. And I remember after doing like tons of printed books, we got our first like rail break at the 150-year-old library of Maharaja Karan Singh, of the Maharaja of Jammu Kashmir, and Maharaja Karan Singh was the custodian who was overseeing it, and that is also one of the finest collections of manuscripts in the country, and for us as a prestige and a respect in the community. So thanks to that second evolution of flatbed to overhead, we were able to work there. But then after COVID, it got stopped, and we have not resumed. And like Prince Martand, who is now currently handling everything, because Maharaja has retired to a large extent from uh, uh, day-to-day activities. And I need to get in touch with Prince Martand and see if he would like to open his doors once again. And the third transition was when a Chinese competitor of Fujitsu called Caesar came up with uh, another overhead scanner, but unlike Fujitsu, uh, it doesn't need any post processing. So my job became even easier. So if we were scanning 1,000 pages a day, like some of my staff members are doing 4,000 pages a day. So in 1 year, what I did with older scanners and what I do now is even higher. But I'm looking forward to that day when there will be like AI robotic scanners, and I would like to invest in that technology no matter what it costs, because given the humongous amount, like the Caesar scanners cannot do justice, especially because with time manuscripts are will get damaged. So, and I know we are right at that fourth transition threshold point where some entrepreneurs will come up with a AI based robotic scanner, and it's just a matter of time. And then somebody will integrate it with Google LM. So, so currently my process is somebody scans, does some minimal post processing, uh, and then uploads it to Google Drive. Then somebody downloads it and makes, and the expert of the language renames it, and then we put it on another pipeline to upload it to archive.org. And I'm sure in the future, it's just out there, like maybe 3 years, there'll be this auto scanner which will take all the steps, and we would just be putting our efforts in engaging a custodian to allow us to scan, and maybe one or two staff just to monitor the machines. And then all processes and pipelines will happen thanks to AI. So we are looking for that. And then with that humongous data, more and deeper wisdoms can be unearthed, and that Homo Deus will also have like pre-modern wisdom extracted, and mass, and even a mass circulation has never envisaged by anybody in humanity. In Maharaja Karan Singh, there are like 5 birch bark manuscripts. And to just give you a background, like birch bark is a tree which is very common in Kashmir, and the bark is peeled and made into a writing material, and its use was like limited to Kashmir and that zone, and it was later replaced by country-made paper. So those 5 manuscripts in Maharaja's library have Pratyabhigya documents. And what is interesting, like this is what the experts told me, that to just give you a background, like it is widely held and everything is subjective, so there's no like one definitive opinion, that the Kashmiri Shaivites did some of the most thorough work when it comes to mysticism and answering the question like who are we and what are we doing on this planet. So the text, so this Professor Turella was telling me that one of his students was asking him that according to the printed text in Kashmir series of texts and studies, this is what has been printed. And Torella's intuition was saying that is wrong. And KSTS is like one of the most authoritative manuscript to text work in print. But then everybody is fallible. And then Torreira told me that he actually consulted the birch barks, and his intuition was exactly correct. The birch bark gave an alternate reading, which was what he thought the tradition says, and some errors had creeped in the printed version. So that is there. And then there was this other text called Utpal Vivriti. So again, to quote Torella, he has one essay which is on his academia.edu site, that Utpal, the Kashmiri master from Kashmir, uh, I think more than half of his works are lost. And then Utpal's disciple's disciple was Abhinav Gupta, whose glamour and stature overshadowed everybody. And again, it is widely held that amongst all scholars from the subcontinent who sat down and tried to document and write on mysticism, uh, Abhinav Gupta has the place of honor. Uh, and there is reason to believe like most top scholars will invest their time in Abhinav Gupta than others. And this is actually a fairly recent thing because traditionally Nagarjuna and Shankaracharya held that position of highest esteem amongst the philosophers of India. So there was this text which Utpal wrote called Pratyabhigya Karika, the, the stanzas of recognition. Then he wrote a prose short commentary on Karika, which is a metric verse form called the Vritti and the Vivritti, the longer commentary. This Vivritti has been lost to humanity. Torella was able to find a copy of the lost Vivriti, which was one of the greatest achievements. And then in that same library of Maharaja, there was another text where the Vivriti had been scribbled on the colophons. And that was the first time we discovered more unknown portions of Vivriti. And then there was a text in Srinagar, and I had to spend a month in Kashmir just to get hold of the text. So it is very unfortunate that sometimes bureaucracies, actually, most of the time, bureaucracies will come with impossible reasons to deny you. And in the case of that library, it was like we have no policy of sharing our manuscripts with people. I went to the founder, and I do not want to mention the name of that library. Uh, and I went to the founder of that library in Srinagar, and I told that the manuscript officer is making this super lame reason to deny me access, and he was like totally like shocked by the uh, by that statement. He says, "What is a library for?" The founder, 90 years old, who created the library and is no longer is now retired. He says, "What is a library for?" But thanks to some of my connections, we were able to communicate with the higher authorities, and they said, "Look, we cannot uh, like counter his argument, but we will give you access for your personal reading." And then I was able to make photographs, and it is all already online now. I announced it on Twitter with the and somebody and I got a transcription done from Sharda to Devanagari, and it is there now in open source for anybody to work on it and utilize it as they please unconditionally. So these set were the some of the most important work we have done. In fact, the fact that I'm sitting in Nepal, I'm sure you would know this. Like, see, Kashmir had a lot of manuscripts, but there was this ethnic cleansing, and people were killed, and their collections were burnt. Like there's Dinanath Yaksha, who probably had 6 to 7 thousand manuscripts. It was torched overnight, and they had valuable manuscripts. But Nepal is that second and the other and the only center where many of those Shaivite texts, which were the background for the monumental work of Abhinav, Utpal, and other masters, can be found. And if the authorities of Nepalese government are listening, I would like to urge them. Like I went to the Nepal archives. Scholars have to pay 125 rupees per folio. Like I understand a archive needs money to sustain itself, but you see the way things work. Like if you say I'm the government, I'm going to make a school, but I'm going to make sure every parent pays for every brick, it's not going to work because no students will come there, because creating a school is like, for example, the IITs where government spend like millions of dollars to train like maybe 500 to 1000 people every year. uh, but that investment doesn't pay instantly. But after 10 years, when an IIT is ready, and when half the school population is in America, England, and Australia, and make all that ton of money, and send half of that, a huge amount of that uh, as remittances. We are getting money, but they may not even have to leave the country. They will start their own company and then pay for their entire life 30% taxes, and plus the corporate taxes and other taxes. And the people who get the salary after 30%, they'll pay the GST. So it's a long term thing. So I urge the government of Nepal that they should actually make everything for free because it will pay in the long term. So, right, to give you an example, like if all the books are online, a ton of scholars will suddenly get access to a huge cache of information and they will churn out amazing books. Those books will create the background of a high tourism industry, mystical tourism industry. And having been in many countries, I can tell you Nepal is highly well positioned, not least because they have a population which is highly hospitable to create like great ashrams and wisdom centers and wisdom tourism in Nepal. And the more these books are limited, the more you are fighting with time, and sometimes time is of essence. For example, if Indian government did not have those IITs, we probably, when the IT revolution happened, I'm told that people with a 3-month diploma in a upstart technology entrepreneurship school academia called NIT, 3-month diplomas found themselves in America. And I know all people who were IT graduates were making somewhere like $200 an hour in America. Like my friends who I studied with in America still continue to make $200 an hour. So you see that huge potential. But imagine if there were no IITs in India, who would go and who would take part in that civilizationally important uh, uh, event, the 80s and 90s, where IT skills, mostly Indians, taken to America and creating this huge infrastructure and aiding all of 7 billion humanity. So so that's how it works. So I think charging 115, because you're the government, you get ton of taxes, tourism. So if you charge 115, all it does is like it's saying like, okay, your children cannot go to school because they cannot pay that 50,000 that the government ends up spending. So you see, and then like just to give you an example, my brother used to go to a very very country school, but now he's a doctor in America. All the government of India gave him is like a 10 plus 2 education at peanut money and a MBBS degree for virtually nothing. But now he's a green card holder and a doctor in America, substantiates that government of India's investments in its citizens it has such powerful effects on the betterment of people's individual lives. And the same applies to other domains. So I urge the Nepalese authorities that, given this seminal importance of these wisdom traditions, restricting them by paying money is restricting the transfer of ideas and the contribution in Nepal in preserving and creating them and now transmitting them in the age we live in. Yeah, maybe my most favorite shloka is Utpal's, as we mentioned before, his first shloka of his Shiv Stotravali, verses on Lord Shiva. न ध्यायतो न जपतः स्यात् यस्य अविधि पूर्वकम एवमेव शिवाभासः tam namo bhakti shalinam. So it's the first verse of his stotras, verses devoted Lord Shiva. And it means like, I bow to that devotee who did not do japa or dhyana and other employed other tools and rituals for attaining higher vibrations, but that process just happened in him automatically. So I bow to that devotee of Shiva. So that's my favorite shloka.
Why is it your favorite?
Yeah, because it captures a process. Like for example, I remember that Joseph Conrad was like a highly esteemed writer in the first half of the 20th century. And I remember reading his interview where he made a statement that I don't know what I'm writing. Like I just write. Like I'm not part of a training, uh, a rigorous academic background in writing or fiction, but a language I learned at the age of 17. and I'm just writing purely what I'm observing. So it's indicative of a certain uh, innate ability in humans uh, to be at the peaks of creativity without any actual effort. So that shloka uh, like highlights that process, and the Kashmirians in that tradition, 9th to 11th century, they were like documenting those mental states, and which are not like uh, encoded in our languages. Those states, mental states, vibrational states, processes, and reading Abhinav and Utpala, yeah, they bring out these hidden subconscious truths, gems. That's my favorite slogan.